Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of Coaching Counter-Strike. And the topic for this installment is all about adding new tactics. And whenever I refer to tactics in this video, take that to mean executes, takes of map control, CT setups. It doesn't really matter. Now, for the most part, we're thinking about the bigger picture stuff, which involves most of the team, although most things covered will still be applicable for smaller elements of teamwork. The first question to address is where to find new tactics. Of course, one source of ideas is your players. As the coach, you should be encouraging inputs from everyone, and employing tried and tested tactics often works well. Of course, the in-game leader and coach will normally bring forth most of the ideas. Even so, try to make use of the extra minds and perspectives. Another avenue for ideas is here on YouTube. Wink, wink. The big problem with most videos on tactics in Counter-Strike is people rarely discuss how to use them within a team, and when they are a good idea, too cool. Depending on the content creator, tactics from YouTube will be very hit or miss, and the better your game knowledge, the more hesitant you should be to simply plug and play tactics from videos. Anyone who's watched my channel for a while will know that I use a 2D demo viewing program called noesis to review games of CS, and for the price, noesis is 100% worth it for the amount of time it saves me. Using tools like noesis is the fastest way to discover new ideas, then watch them in context, and then once you've decided you like them, then you can load up the demo to pull out small specifics like nade lineups. Loads of professional teams employ a similar tool called Shadow, and there is a free tool called CSGO Review, bit of a mouthful, which I have linked in the description below. When lifting tactics from pro demos, the question you need to repeatedly ask is why? Why flash this? Why molly this? How do the timings work out here? Understanding the why like this is everything. As a side note, one big advantage of bringing in tactics which players have used before is at least some of the why will already be understood. Even so, always ask these sort of questions, irrespective of the source of ideas. Now, although this might sound quite daunting for some, going through this process is the best way to learn the team game. Once your team is comfortable with the basic setups, defaults, and executes, adding new things is often about plugging gaps. You'll regularly find yourself solving problems like, we need an execute to exploit this, we need a setup to counter this, and so on and so on. Getting into this cycle for adding new tactics, then looking for deficiencies, then adding even more tactics will go a long way towards helping yourself and your team understanding through and through the why of a tactic. After finding a tactic you'd like to add, the next step is going through things with your in-game leader. Both the coach and IGL need to be on the same page of understanding the why behind a new execute or setup, and especially thinking about when would be a good time to call the tactic. Going through this process of discussing things with each other will reinforce the learning so much for both parties and will aid you when explaining the tactic back to your players. If you're lifting a tactic from a pro demo or already know the ins and outs, one thing you might want to do is recording each perspective for your players to watch back, or similarly, taking screenshots of grenade lineups. Things like these can be labor intensive. Perhaps try them out and see if they're worth the effort for your team. Some people will really like to have these sort of aids. Others will be fine simply being shown things on the server. Throughout the process of implementing new tactics, be they executes, setups, defaults, etc., make sure to keep track of what you are adding and write down every player's role in the tactic. You don't need pages and pages explaining things in excruciating detail. A few lines should be enough to jog people's memory. As the coach, try to get into good habits of writing things down early on, since once you're jumping between loads of different maps, it will become far too much information to contain in your brain. The most common way to implement new tactics is walking through them with your squad before scrimming. Whilst doing so, encourage questions and explain at least a little of the why behind this new tactic, and if it's not immediately clear, how each player's role fits into the bigger picture. Especially with executes, dry run your new tactics a few times and have yourself or the IGL take control. Dry running a new tactic should only take a few minutes, and wasting time just makes an already boring process go on for even longer. When adding new elements, do not introduce too much at once, and a couple of tactics at a time should probably be the maximum. In the following scrims, run the new tactics maybe 5 times and correct any small mistakes you spot as you go along. Between scrims, ask players if they're happy and find out if anyone wants more repetitions to get a better feel for the tactic. Once you're at a good level, move on to the following tactics and just come back from time to time to stave off the inevitable rust. As a coach, you should be having constant conversations with your players, and part of this should be checking people are absorbing the new tactics. Often they'll ask questions on whether this part makes sense, or they'll think this flash is better, or maybe they'll want you to go over a couple of things with them. These conversations are incredibly important. Receiving input from everyone and using different methods to help people learn is par for the course. Everyone is different, and figuring out which approaches work best for each player will pay massive dividends later on. As always, guys, remember to post your questions below, and if you'd prefer to remain anonymous, feel free to message me on Discord or Twitter. Anyway, guys, that is everything for this one. If you enjoyed that, hit that like button, sub, Twitter, Discord. You guys know the drill. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.